Hey, welcome to the Do Good Work podcast. Today we're talking to Dustin DeVries. Dustin is the CTO and co-founder of Caffeine Interactive and technology consultant. He's been living and breathing software development for the last 20 years. And as an agency, he focuses on planning strategies, architecture, and ensuring that software implementations are straightforward, clear, and easy to measure with measurable success. He enjoys working with clients to build the right technology, whether it's a multi-tiered mobile app built with React and Laravel, or a simple website on WordPress. He received his Bachelor's of Science of Computer Engineering from Texas A&M University. He's proud to work with some of the most talented business analysts and developers in the industry. He is a solopreneur and has grown his company based on a 100% remote team, which has been thriving for the last 8 years. In his spare time, Dustin enjoys tennis, fishing, reading, gardening, cooking, music, and hanging out with the family. Work-life balance is essential for him to operate the business, overcoming adversities, and finding a bigger purpose in life. And he is on a mission to make software development more accessible to all people. Dustin, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, so a lot of service businesses, consultants, there's the work that we do, there's the work that we deliver, there's the interaction, the project, the scope, the retainer, etc. But there's always the one constant, and that's the relationship with the client, the relationship for the long-term game, and also being able to identify the real needs. Because there's always a scope within the scope, right? There's a scope of what they promised or that you promise, but then you dive under the hood and you're like, oh, this is the actual scope. Tell me a little bit more about relationship building, client interactions, and how you focus on the long-term game, because I think that's really a key winner.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's so important. I look at our work, I look at our pipeline, I look at everything that's going on in our company. It's all built on long-term relationships. And that's important because especially early on, your company, you're trying to make payroll, you're trying to pay your mortgage, trying to do all these different things. We're more mature in our company, been around for 9 years, almost 10 years now. But it's been an important part. It's been an early focus of ours of let's always try to do the right thing. Let's try to build good, strong relationships, build trust in an authentic way. And that's how we've really focused and positioned our business. And as a result of that, we have customers that have been with us for years, and they refer other customers, new customers, and those customers come in very qualified because they've heard the great stories about the work that we've done. And so I think that long game is just so important to the fabric of our company.
Tell me how you marry that, though, because right now, maturity, 9 years in the game, I get it. But then how do you marry that mindset of long-term? Because in the beginning or early on or in the first 3 years, usually it's sales, get more volume, increase volume, get that cash flow, get the payroll going, pay the mortgage. Those are the constant worries, I would say. How do you marry that strategic lens or that discipline of focusing on customer wins, client relationships, while at the same time hitting short-term, near-term goals?
I don't know if there's a specific thing I can point to. First off, we are a small business. We have about 20 employees, but I'm intimately involved in all of our projects and all of our customers and everything else. I'm able to do that the way I practice my profession. So it comes through, and we typically don't have, even though we have 20 employees, not every one of those employees is communicating directly with the customer. So there's probably like 4 or 5 of us that actually interact with customers. So we've set that as part of our culture, the way we interact with our customers, and it's easier to control that way. And yeah, there's always, I think when the compromises we made early on, I don't think we ever compromised. Oh, I think we could take, like, worst case be like, I could take advantage of this person. They don't know what they really need. I think I could get away with charging like some crazy amount for something. And I do believe in value-based work. I think there's a great ebook that was put out. I think it's by the founder of FreshBooks, CEO of FreshBooks at the time. This is probably like 8-10 years ago. It was about pricing, and actually a great read. I think it's still applicable today, where you talk about what is the cost of doing something? What is your cost of what it costs to build it? There's a cost of that value to the customer. And I think you want to find somewhere in between that. But you also want to, like, okay, so if something is worth $100,000 to a customer, but it's only going to cost me like $2,000 or $3,000 to build, yeah, I could go sell it to them for $100,000. But if they find out from friends from their network that later that, oh, that's only cost them like $10,000, and we screwed them based on the price, then what does that do to our reputation? And I say this, it sounds a little bit generic, whatever, but I think that our reputation is our most valuable commodity, more so than the money we make on a project. So I've always tried to lead from that perspective of reputation first, and that then turns into more profit because of the relationships you build.
No, and I like that perspective. That kind of goes to the depth of the answer. Or I'm not looking for a golden right answer. There's no right answer here. It's better, best, or like ultimate best. But I think you're hitting it on the reputation, because the example for pricing, there's that happy medium, right? I've experimented with that too, with value-based pricing, and seen balloon pricing work. And I'm like, okay, maybe that didn't feel as good because maybe we could have done more agile work, or just finding that happy medium as you're doing value-based, even though the value contribution to the actual value that you're driving for the company, it is justifiable. I think it's still looking to find what is the best approach, looking at the long-term game. And
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah, it's just how do you manage, how do you see it? And you mentioned the commodity is the reputation. How do you measure that? How do you keep the team ingrained with that too? You got 4 people talking to clients, but how do you personally keep the team accountable? How do you personally lead and manage that?
I think it's going to be a problem as we grow, to be quite honest. I'm able to manage it now because it's not like I'm overseeing every single conversation, getting on every single phone call, seeing every single email that goes across, but I do see the communications in general. We have systems like we use Teamwork, which is similar to Basecamp for anyone familiar with either of those two
Yeah.
tools for communication. So I can log into any thread and see what's going on in terms of our customer interactions. And there's times when somebody maybe says something and I go back and I see that and I say, we may want to you word it this way next time. Or
Mm,
if I'm able to do that now, but you're right. As you grow, I haven't had the problem yet of having to find a way to maintain that
yeah.
100-person company. I know it's going to be a problem, but I also know that I brought on some people on the team who have adopted this concept. They're really good at, they're really good people, really good people skills people, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. No.
They are like they would be leaders. They would be like cultural leaders within the company as we grow and probably be put in positions of either management or at least in terms of having some say in the conversations that we have with our customers.
I personally have a sweet spot for the 20-person team, because I know when leading those teams, there's a spark. There's something genuinely fun, in my opinion, around that size. But I'm curious to know,
Yeah.
is your goal to hit 100?
I don't know that I have any specific goal in terms of headcounts. I've always liked, there was a company used to be in the affiliate marketing space before I got into building our own agency. But there was a company that I remember, or there was I guess it was a company. I can't remember the name of, it was one of these deal sites, like Slick, it wasn't Slick Deals, it was someone like that. I think
Oh,
they were like a 5-person company. They're making like $30 million a year.
oh yeah, the
I was like,
revenue per
yeah,
employee is like ridiculous because of the
yeah.
when
And
you're
I'm
a
like, that's
marketplace.
great. I don't want everyone to go with your employees. I don't want to scare anyone into my team that's listening to this podcast and think
Yeah, but
we're
I
20,
mean,
but I'd rather
revenue
have
per
5.
employee is
Yeah.
a good piece, but
Exactly. I'm not looking to build. Yeah, I don't want something that is making. I'd like to make money. That's ultimately why I'm doing this because I need to make money to survive, like all of us. But I don't want to have something that kills me. I don't want something that
yeah,
I'm running like multiple major corporations or even just one major corporation. Like those guys, the headaches they go through, it's insane.
yeah,
Like
you choose your stressors, right?
yeah, it's not a lifestyle business by any means. I think it's more than a lifestyle business, but I think it's something that is manageable, gives us some financial independence. I think that's ultimately my goal.
Okay, and the reason I ask is because I usually see, and I've been encountering this when I'm working with teams and seeing their growth, is the balance between agency productized at scale, where you're literally, it's always the same package and you ship it and you can scale pretty well, versus that boutique feel. And I feel like when it's at the 20-person mark, even up to the 40-person mark, you can still be boutique, an approach where the founder like you can be in and provide that value to the clients, or focus on strategy and the deal making and like
Yeah.
the fun stuff, whatever you find to be fun. I find strategy and deal making to be fun. I'm curious to know from you, like, what is your trajectory to continue to grow? Somewhat in the productized route, continue consistency there, easily scalable, or do you want to maintain that boutique feel, that genuineness where clients know that they can talk to the founder once a month or something?
Yeah, I think I would probably say the former, probably more systematized. The way I look at my business, I always think of it as like an asset, right?
Yeah.
So I think we all do, at least in some capacity. Literally like an asset, like it's something that at some point, maybe
Grows
I'm able
without
to work
you.
myself out of a job. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like the chairman of the board and I have an executive staff. And that doesn't mean it's like go run around and sit on the beach, play golf or whatever people do when they don't have a
You might
full-time
go
job and they're
crazy. I
retired.
don't know. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
entrepreneurs are capable of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think I always want to stay busy, keep my mind sharp and active. But in an ideal world, if I could build something that would give me opportunity to maybe go explore like another venture, or we're a service-based company. We pretty much do only services, but there's certainly the allure of building our own products and have a product focus within the company and have that be part of our revenue, some percentage of our revenue coming from
Yeah.
product. It's similar to the Basecamp model I mentioned them earlier,
Oh
but
yeah.
as a business, the way they've structured themselves, I think they're similar that they started out as a service-based company. They
Yeah.
identified some problems, built some tools around it. Now they're product-based.
Which is pretty cool to see. And their products are very intuitive to use.
Mhm.
It's obviously no wrong answer here. It's just really cool to see how you're growing that. And again, marrying that back to the reputation, marrying that back to the real currency, because regardless of what you choose and how you grow, but the bootstrapped approach of boutique, having that engagement with the client, but also not making it unscalable for you and not work like giving you 5 jobs. How do you see that? Because as you grow product, I've heard arguments back and forth for productize that sometimes it doesn't allow you to do value-based pricing, which I have rebuttals to that, but I'd love to know your take. If you go to productize, where does the creativity stem from? How do you engage the team to be excited about new products or clients? And how do you ensure the client experience? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that you can go productize and still maintain that creativity. I guess I could see how that may stifle creativity in some ways, depending on how much. I think there's certainly a certain level of structure that you put in place, systems and processes, things like that. But I don't see us ever like having some kind of system where you spit in a concept and it spits out wireframes and mockups, right? I
Oh
think that's
yeah,
always going to
yeah.
require someone to go in and handle that. Certainly I think the industry I'm in, building software, it is becoming more and more commoditized. You look at website development and how much that's changed over the last 10 years from you really needed a developer to now there's everything from Wix and Weebly and things like that to even like WordPress with an Elementor backend for the theme. You can do a hell of a lot with that. And you can almost build a website without having a developer. So there's things like that where I think as a company, we focus on areas where we can use our creativity.
Yeah.
And it may mean that we shift our focus from certain types of projects because we're able to provide more of that custom value that you wouldn't
Mhm.
get elsewhere. Or maybe we have a division that maybe someday we become wildly successful. We decide to build our own competitor to Wix or Squarespace or whatever. So fine, like maybe we do that, but there's still creativity there because I guess we're talking about systems internally within processes within my company, Caffeine, and externally in terms of how we interface with our customers. But I think some things can become more systematized and it's fine. We just have to make sure we're constantly pivoting and adjusting as the market changes.
100%. And I love the fact that you mentioned leveraging those systems to empower you to do more, either creative or empower you to do something else differently or pivot. Because I think that is in my vein where I'm seeing it as well is not systemize and productize to do the same boring work, but to leverage to create more exciting work, or also have a product suite of
Yeah.
productized services and that at scale, and then ensuring the client reputation and the client management. How are you solving
Yeah.
that too? You mentioned one-on-one coaching, like the training with your team members to communicate with clients, but how are you
Mhm.
helping solve that problem? Because I believe that, at least from my experience, the best that communicate with clients are either ones that ran their own business or were on the hook, like their name or their signature, or like the classic cliche, their butt was on the line in the past where they had to perform or they didn't perform. And usually those that perform and overcome are exceptional when it comes to working with other team members and communicating with clients. How are you nurturing and fostering that?
Besides what I mentioned before about just the oversight and being able to use those as teaching moments when they come up. I mean, it's also, it comes into hiring. We don't do a lot on like
Mm.
personality types and there's like the disc and all these other things you go like figure out people's personality types. There's probably some personality type that like does well with customer
Yeah.
interfacing and that we could try to hire for. Right now, it's just basically through intuition and trial and error. We've definitely had some hires that haven't worked
I
out
love
well
it.
and
Yep.
you know, have to deal with that. But I think it's hiring a good team. I think that's very key to making this work and putting a lot, especially on those customer touch points, those types of hires, really putting some good emphasis on that. I think some people they're really good at reading others. They're really good at
Yeah.
reading the room. And there's other people that are just oblivious to that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it does come down to different personality types in my
Yeah,
mind, at
and
least.
their skill set. No, you're 100% right, and I actually love that too. I've seen it both ways with the high personality testing or whatever. And at the end of the day, if I'm on a call with them, I'll know within 30 seconds, almost immediately. But it's
Like that
also
Steve
you.
Jobs thing, right? I think Steve Jobs was famous and I hate everyone always uses these comparisons, Apple, Steve Jobs, Southwest, like when you read business books and things like that. But that's one thing that I really loved about Steve Jobs is the idea that when he was making a new hire, he usually made up his mind within the first 30 seconds to a minute, you know, whether the person was going to work out. He trusted his intuition. And I think it probably worked out pretty well for him. So
Yeah, you're 100% right. I'm not to say that I'm perfect every time. I made exceptional hires and I horrible decisions, but time tells. But I think there is to lean into that. But to your point, the different skill sets and personality types, maybe they might not be really good at reading the room, but they're exceptional in their craft or in their development, specifically with tech. To pivot the conversation a little bit, I'd love to know you, when we set the podcast up, you mentioned the one thing concept. And that to me is something that's really important for entrepreneurs, for business owners, even for day individuals. If you're working your 9 to 5, or if you're doing a side hustle, or if you're growing a business, usually it's the one habit that's going to change everything in your life. It's the one skill set that you learn that's going to change everything in your life. It's the one goal that you're focusing on that's going to change everything else in your life. For you and your business right now, what's the one thing that you're honing in on, and why does it excite you?
I would say for us right now, the one thing is probably we break our business up into 4 different pipelines in terms of work, or 4 different buckets. There's inbound, outbound, referral, and then retention. And retention has been pretty strong for us historically. Referral is something that's been strong for us, but we haven't been intentional about harvesting referrals. Is that something
Mm.
that we've changed as of late? And then also focusing on inbound and outbound, because at the end of the day, referrals only, you can build a very successful business just off of referrals. I think there's plenty of examples
Yeah,
out
you
there of
have.
that.
Yeah.
But I think if you have inbound and outbound working for you either or on those, it's, in my mind, I always think of it in my mind, I picture like a water spigot. You turn it on and here come the leads flowing through. And then when you get your pipeline too full, you're like, we can't take on any more work. You turn the spigot off. I would
Yeah.
love to get to that point. We're not there. That's theoretically what everybody's looking for, but we haven't really been able to crack that code with our business. I think because of the fact that what we do, building apps and websites, is very
So
commoditized, and we've got to
unique.
stand out and not
Yeah, I
to
actually
think.
think it's unique and it can be commoditized, but there's all other, because you're right. There are plenty of shops, and for everyone listening out here too, the same applies for you. There are plenty of people and plenty of shops doing the same thing that you do right now. Probably they could do it better. But the one things that they don't have are you, your goals, your values, your personality, your approach, your relationships. And like you mentioned, that core relationship piece. But that is a tough cookie to solve. And I personally feel like if it's not easy to solve that problem. But with referrals, I mean, I've seen referral base grow substantially, and you're doing all the sales right now then yourself, right? You're the
Yes, I
main
am.
salesperson. And
Pretty
that's
much
that's
so,
the
yeah.
yeah, the founder led sales. I'll probably send you some pods that I talk to referral people and salespeople around growing to that. But
There is a lot of resistance on that, I should mention too, because I'm a
really,
software developer by trade. So
oh
those
no
didn't
way.
come naturally to me. I used to hate getting on phone calls with people. It's, oh my gosh, like I've got a phone call today with a potential customer. Like I'm thinking about it all day. Just, I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't like the structure of having something on my calendar, but I've just embraced it. And I think I can remember the name of the book offhand. There's a guy in Australia that runs a successful digital agency. And he mentioned, goes this whole process talking about sales, and it's all based around sales and marketing. The book is, but talking about, you may be a great chef and cook really great food, but the minute you open a restaurant, you're not just a chef anymore. You're a person who sells an
Mm.
experience, and you got to make sure you approach it that way. And that really hit home to me, because I was like, I'm resisting this. I would love to just hire like a salesperson and say, here, you figure all this out. Let me just stick with the
Oh
technical
yeah.
details and building apps. But and I'm not saying that can't be successful, but I think you're leaving something on the table if you go that route. Best case, you're leaving something on the table. Worst case, it's ball of flames.
Oh, I've seen the
It
worst
doesn't work out.
case. You don't want to be the worst
I
case,
do.
let me tell you. But no, you're a
Yeah.
natural right now, so you definitely are practicing. So I couldn't tell. I honestly couldn't tell the difference.
Oh,
Um,
hustle.
Yeah, no, it'd be pretty interesting to see when you saw that puzzle to do a case study around that, because you're right. The outbound approach, in my opinion, might be the best for services because, again, you can have more conversations. The inbound, the whole demand generation piece, but the sales piece is a huge component because, in my opinion, because we can call it like a commodity, but in my opinion, the fact that you're creating something quote unquote custom, even though it could be productized, but custom to me, to my solutions, to my issues, to whatever I'm facing, that's unique. And I feel like the highly catered approach
Yeah.
is a good service for you. But that's cool. That's a good approach to get
Yeah.
out to get into that.
Yeah. And I think for us, it's been a real challenge. And I think you asked me like, what's something exciting? And I think that is exciting because of the challenge. It's like, it isn't easy. And so if it was
Yeah.
easy, everybody would be doing it. Because it's hard, once we figure that, like the reward from this is going to be hopefully pretty substantial, because it's so difficult to do. It goes from the audiences you're building, like how do you even identify people who need app development services? Like that becomes difficult. You can say, I want to go focus on specific niches or whatever. Okay,
Mhm.
but how do you know those niches who needs an app, or how do you sell them? Really, you're speaking to the problem, right? When you're talking about marketing. So you're starting with the problem, and then you're talking about your value prop, your unique selling proposition, all that sort of stuff. But it's interesting, like looking at that, because I know once we figure this out, it's going to be like a major turning point in our company
Mhm.
in terms of growth and everything else. So that's what gets me excited about it.
I love that. In that same vein, what do you think, or with the concept that every founder, every company needs to be a media company nowadays, where we're seeing founder-led thought leadership, we're seeing a lot of that inbound demand generation piece. What's your thought on that? What's your piece on that specifically for the software industry?
I don't know. I'm not sure I even completely understand the question, if I'm being perfectly honest, because
Yeah.
I don't know that just because if you start a business and you've been successful, I guess you have something to teach people. But I think we sometimes have a tendency to put people up on pedestals that maybe don't
Oh,
necessarily need to be
yeah.
on pedestals. So I don't think of myself as I'm a thought leader.
But you do know more, for example, you do know more about software development than me. So to me, you're the expert, right?
Oh yeah, within a
Yeah.
group of people, yeah, I may be an expert on certain things, and you would obviously be expert on certain things, but I'm not an expert on. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
maybe that's part of why I do the podcasting, because I do believe that you need to have a sales coach that I work with, and big thing is authority voice. Or it's one of the big things. This was one of those buckets when I started with him. I was like, I don't have anything on authority voice, and now
Mm.
meeting with people like you and coming on podcasts like this, it gives me a chance to practice that. And it also challenges me to think about some of these things, because I'm thinking about it more strategically and more importantly, more philosophically, like we are today. And I think it's sharpening the saw, or perfect. Like
Yeah.
what I feel like I'm doing here.
Yeah, you're doing it, but it's a good take, and I love that the authority voice. And I talked to a gentleman. He's very bold minded. He's very careful for the craft. Probably is exceptional. Maybe top 5%, 10% in his industry. Isn't well known because he's not doing the marketing, but he's done incredible work with higher end, probably names that we would recognize. But I think on the same vein, sometimes we might be afraid to teach or to give because, oh, compared to other people who know this isn't special or this is maybe run of the mill. But for people like me or for people who are the target market, it's actually pretty unique, pretty special. So I think it's also having that
Yeah.
awareness that every one of us, even you listening right now, something that someone else might find valuable. And I believe that it's important for us to share that, not to say, hey, I am the greatest, I am the best. Like, you should listen to me only, or to go to the other flip side where we have content that has no content in it. Like, you can do it, and then that's your post for the day. That's meaningless and worthless. Doesn't help anyone. But in my
Yeah.
opinion, I think it's important to highlight the fact that I think we do have something to teach because we have a different perspective on it. And statistically speaking, there's no other individual just like you, just by looking at the total human population.
Yeah. And let's not ignore the imposter syndrome too, right? Where we all feel like we are as good as maybe we are, feel like
Yeah.
we're not worthy of whatever success we've had. I think every founder with any empathy for whatever like self consciousness is going to feel that. And I think it's like, it's okay to have shortcomings, deficiencies, as long as you have those things, then those are things you can work on and be intentional about biasing against. And yeah, that's like with sales too. I wasn't a salesperson. Okay. Then maybe I need to learn. There's nothing that says I can't figure out how to do sales.
Oh yeah.
I know how to talk to people. I can get along with most people. Pretty easygoing
Yeah.
guy, not easily offended, all that stuff. So I think I've got some of those things going for me. It's just like, I just need the chops and like how to sell. I want to work on
Exactly.
that a lot. I've been working on it really for 9 years because I had to go build the company out of nothing, and even longer than that, because we're all salespeople in some way. Even if you're working
Yeah.
a 9 to 5 job for corporate world, non-management, you're still a salesperson because you got to get the job, right? Yeah. I don't know.
Oh no, you're 100% on point. And it's also going even further on that. Whatever skill set you want to learn, what are the beliefs the successful people who are doing that activity? What do they believe to be true? And what can you match or mirror to believe and also behave in that way? And I think you're
Yeah.
doing it. You're 100% right. But no, I really appreciate that you going deep on that. Dustin, that does mean a lot. And I think it's important for us to have these real conversations around that. But Dustin, for our audience out there, where can people go to one, thank you for your transparency, your openness, and your insights, and what to also learn what you're up to, what you're building?
Yeah, sure. So our company's Caffeine Interactive. So you can go to caffeineinteractive.com, all one word, no hyphens, anything like that. Caffeineinteractive.com. My email address is dustin@caffeineinteractive.com. I don't mind sharing that. That's probably the easiest way to reach me. And yeah, I love hearing from people who maybe found something insightful from what I had to say, or maybe even more, maybe disagree with something I said. It's always
Hey,
fun
that's
to
the beauty of
talk.
speech, right? When we
Yeah.
can have healthy disagreements, healthy conversations. And I think we'll put those links on the show notes as well. But Dustin, it's a pleasure. Thank you again for being on.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.